What is up, jabronis? JJ back here from Unpure Bets, here with my boy Coop, talking a little NASCAR. Quaker State 400 at the Kentucky Speedway on July 12th. My man Coop here will break down the track, some history, which drivers are coming in hot, which not so much, and also give some outrights and derivative bets we like. As I've also been doing with these PGA vids, I'm also going to provide you one bet that I will be on also. So Coop, look, thanks for popping in for this vid. Talk a little NASCAR for the first time on this channel. How about you tell folks a little bit about yourself?
Oh, I appreciate the invite, JJ. No, I mean, I'm with Run Pure Sports. I've been with AP back when the days of your DFS site, and great guy, and top notch. And he runs a class act organization there, along with Hoop and Big T now. So very excited. I do the NASCAR piece and golf. I do all sports, but those are my two main ones. I prefer the week-long ones because, man, those people that grind that stuff out day in and day out, man, have my ultimate respect, man, because, that's tough. When you're doing NBA every day or you're doing Major League Baseball every day, that's a long grind, man.
Oh yeah, it's not easy in any front. The sweats aren't easy either.
No.
But yeah, no, much respect. I mean, these are sports. Like I said, I started doing a few videos with man going for golf. Obviously, going to have you on now for some NASCAR bets and such. These are just sports that I've never handicapped before, at least at a regular level. And like me, like for some of the guys that are maybe watching this video, like, oh, you've never watched NASCAR as talking from me. I mean, like I've been following NASCAR now for the last 3-4 months. I feel like I have at least I'm no longer naive. I mean, I've hit a few,
Right.
hit a few 5-figure DFS contests as well. So I've been in the arena for the last few months a bit, so I could definitely know enough to be dangerous. But I'm happy to have somebody like you on to talk this track because I know you'll be able to provide some certainly expert level stuff on it.
At least with you being into baseball, you understand the variance because there's quite a bit of variance here in NASCAR. You can be winning all the loot, and then 2 laps later, you can be negative losing.
That pit lane accident last week was insane.
Wild.
Insane.
Wild.
But look, yeah. So what's the deal with this track? How is it maybe different from the others? And what makes it better for some drivers and worse for others?
So we have a 1.5-mile track. The big question going into here is obviously the 2 hottest drivers right now are Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin. So, how will they fare, and will people, hitch their wagons to them and stay on top of them? The other piece to this track is in the past, this has been a night race. Now we're going to a day race. So the grip's not going to be as good during the day as what it would be at night. So that's the big thing that we've got to look at. This is, I think they've had 9 races here. If you want to look back on data, which really isn't going to be helpful because the cars are different now, but 2013 was a day race due to a rain out. So, but other than that, it's all been night races. So I would expect a little bit more cautions than what we have seen here recently. If you look at the beginning of Kentucky, there was a lot of cautions, but here the last couple of years, that's kind of backed off. But I think with the lack of grip, we're going to see some more cautions, and then also as we all know, no practices. So that's going to be the other big thing. Who gets the car set up proper from the beginning of the race is going to be a big benefit and plus for those teams.
Now, let me ask you, with the race now happening during the day and you saying there being less grip, are there certain manufacturers you think that hurts, or certain drivers you think that might hurt? Like maybe like a guy like Truex who has some serious proven numbers on this track at night. Now it being in the day, does it kind of like change your opinions on him coming into this track, whereas if it was at night?
Yes. Truex in general has been extremely dominant on 1.5-mile tracks the last 3 years. He hasn't been as dominant this year as what he was the last couple of years, but he was just so dominant. He's still really good. But if you look at his night races versus day races on 1.5-mile tracks, the numbers are incredible for him. He's just extremely dominant on night tracks. So that does change my theory of thoughts with him. And then the other piece too is Toyota in general has not had speed this year, and that's very concerning. Perhaps they've used the last 3-4 weeks away to do some stuff to try to get speed into their cars for this weekend. But they've led very few laps, and then the laps that they've led on has mostly come from Truex and Hamlin, and they've been on tracks where tire management is more key. This isn't as key as when you look at tire management. You have Darlington, which is a tire management course, and you have Atlanta. This is more of a Las Vegas type of track, Chicago type of track, where it's pure speed. And that's very concerning for Martin Truex and Toyota in general.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a lot of good information overall. Now, knowing what we know about this track, and I always try to keep these videos semi-brief. I'm not, I don't want to always marinate XYZ. But if you're looking at some outrights, we'll say 2 outrights that you maybe would lean, maybe even come tomorrow, you'll find yourself on. What would be 2 of your strongest outrights based on the odds you see for this race tomorrow?
The 2 manufacturers, if you look at the past races here, it's been dominated, one by Toyota. I've already put my thought about Toyota, and then Ford. And then Ford is really Brad Keselowski. He's won here 3 times. So Ford is going to be strong. And then if you look at the Xfinity race, the majority of the field is Ford and Xfinity, but they were strong too. But I'm kind of leaning towards Chevrolet. If you look at Chevrolet this year on the 1.5 mile tracks, they have been very, very, very strong. They've had the fastest cars, but when you look at the results, they just haven't been there because they've had a lot of, blown tires at the end of races, wrecks at the end of races, wrecks in the middle of the races. Their fortune hasn't been good. But I am all on Chevrolet over Ford, with Toyota being a distant third this weekend.
Got it. Now, at what point, if you're looking at things like that, where you say, Chevrolet's been so fast on these 1.5 mile tracks, at what point between like the blown tire, maybe a pit issue, maybe an accident, at what point do you see like so many of these happen that you're just like, okay, these just aren't anomalies anymore? Or is it just a matter of you can isolate all these incidents and say that, hey, look, you know what? I'm still going to back Chevrolet. These are all just anomalies in time. It's modified the odds a bit to give us better favor or more favorable odds on Chevrolet, and I'm just going to stick with them.
That's a great point, but I do think they're all anomalies because, Chase had a random wreck and won one, and then the other one he was battling with Logano, had it, and then Byron's had some blown tires here and there. But, it'll all come back. NASCAR is really streaky. Before these last couple of flat track races, Ryan Blaney was extremely hot. He's kind of cooled off. Then you have Truex and Hamlin now coming in. So I think they just got to get back on that streak. And, you can't replace speed. Speed's going to put you in that place to be able to contend. And then you just got to have the luck on your side. And I think all the luck's going to change. They haven't been predominantly great here in the past, but they haven't been great in general in 1.5 mile tracks. But they've got that speed this year. And, the speed was just so overwhelming earlier this year at these tracks that I think it's going to carry over into this track too. I'm specifically looking, at Rick Hendrick and his team of Chase Elliott and Alex Bowman. I really like Chase Elliott this weekend. In the 7.5 mile tracks that they've run on this year, he's been in the lead at least for 26 laps on 6 of them. And he's put himself in contention to win those races several times. So I think Chase is the guy I'm going to back when it comes to Chevrolet this weekend.
It's funny you say it because that's going to wind up being a similar bet I make from a derivative standpoint. But you bring up some great points in Chevrolet. And the one thing I've always done with this channel is I've never given like chalk out. And like the random times I do it, it's usually like slight chalk. I wouldn't even consider it like you could look at odds for this race, Busch at 5-1, Harvick 5-1, Hamlin 6-1, Truex 6-1. But we're here telling you that we're going to be dabbling with Elliott, who's 8-1, maybe even a little higher at some other books, and then a sprinkle on maybe Bowman 2 at 20-1. Again, these are just outrights. You don't need to, throw the whole bankroll on it. Just for pennies of a unit. And like I said, cross your fingers. Those are the two that Coop likes to potentially win this race, at least based on the pricing. It makes sense. Now I'll tell you this to kind of slide into the pick I'm going to give. The pick I like the most for this race between matchups and all the type of derivative bets, I like Chase Elliott top 5 finish at plus 140. And it kind of goes back to a lot of the things Coop said. Like Elliott's shown a lot of speed on these 1.5 mile tracks. He's just been semi unlucky now. Coop, you can correct me if I'm wrong. He's got one of the worst pit crews, at least of all these top drivers. It just seems like he always tends to lose seconds in the pits. But with that said, track like this, speed matters. I do like him to kind of hang around the front for most of the race, maybe even, like I said, finish late with our outrights that we like. So top 5 finish plus 140, I like. If you really want to grab your nuts, you can bet top 3 finish at plus 210. But the official play from me is going to be Chase Elliott, top 5 finish plus 140. Now, Coop, is there a few maybe matchup bets you want to give out before we let the guys go?
Yeah, I like Austin Dillon. If I asked you, who has the best or top 5 finishes this year on 1.5 mile tracks, you would probably get 5, 10, 15 guesses before you came to Austin Dillon.
Maybe even
Austin
20.
Dillon. Maybe. But Austin Dillon has the 5th best finish this year, average-wise, on these 1.5 tracks. And, not many people are going to look into that. I really like him. He's been consistent. Chevrolet again. So I look for Austin Dillon, top 10. And I also like Austin Dillon over Ryan Newman. And I think the money on that is even.
That's a pretty unique call. I do see it on DraftKings, minus 115 versus Ryan Newman. Now, granted, I know a lot of the books you guys might use, you might not get the specific matchups that I'm looking at right now or the books that we have. But, just realize that if you see the name Austin Dillon in your matchups, Coop kind of likes him over whoever he's more or less going to be paired against. They're not going to pair like Dillon against Hamlin, but they're going to pair Dillon against guys he's, around the range of. Maybe even, I guess it wouldn't even surprise if they moved him to maybe like a guy like Custer or Stenhouse. Would that be crazy if they matched them up?
No, it wouldn't be crazy. But, if you want to go long, I haven't really, thought finalized, but Stenhouse is another driver that I have interest in because I think, he's been one of the stronger drivers also on these 1.5 tracks. Unfortunately, Recky has had a lot of wrecks, but his car has just been spot on when it comes to speed. And the top 10 number on him, I think, was 550. So, it wouldn't surprise me. He has a good starting position, 14th, so it wouldn't take him long to get there. And then one other bet that I'm trying to look to see if I can find would be a parlay bet where we get 4 drivers in top 10. I mentioned Hendrick Motorsports earlier. I think there's a logistic good shot where all 4 of them could finish in the top 10. So if you could get Elliott, Bowman, Johnson, and Byron somehow all in the top 10, I think the odds would be very good. And I think, a lot of times you see in these races where the teams hit, all the drivers succeed. And I'm really looking for Rick Hendrick to do that tomorrow. Odds
will be wild on that if it hits. I don't know if a lot of sports books will give you that option.
Right.
But if it does, that odds on that hit would be absolutely wild. Okay, so just to briefly recap, we're kind of higher on the Chevrolet drivers. Specifically Elliott, we kind of like him to finish at least in the top 5. But as always, guys, stay disciplined. You guys know the drill. Proper bankroll management. Big UFC card tonight, UFC 251. Guys from the Keg are going live on this channel from about 5 o'clock, I believe, all the way up to the end of the card. I'll be on for the main card. And then tomorrow they're going to do a live NASCAR sweat show as well. So be sure to join us with that. Coop, thanks so much for popping in for the video, helping us out. Guys, make sure you like and subscribe to the video. If you did not like this video, I hope someone takes a shit on your chest. But other than that, guys, thanks so much for popping in. Coop, thanks again as always, and we'll see you guys soon.